I got my American flag, my Chinese flag from this nice
Yeah.
shirt that you gave me,
Mm-hmm.
and my Russian flag. There we go. And Indiana Jones behind me.
Yeah, I
I for,
recognize that.
you know Indiana Jones,
Of
right?
course.
I know
Of course.
Indiana Jones.
I loved Indiana Jones.
That's a really nice shirt. Like in China, you cannot use the national flag on any of your merchant. Like you have to get a special license. I told you already, right?
Yeah,
I just want
I
to
know, but it's
know.
I like that you got me the shirt. So
I can show something, but then I think people is going to yeah.
It's okay, just
It's
show it.
okay. Yeah, this is the gift from Wenjie. His mom.
oh,
Yeah, 为人民服务, for the service, to the people.
you know, it's funny because um, I've always really enjoyed American history, but it turns out that if you're honest about American history, then that takes you into China, into
Oh,
Russia,
yes.
into so many different countries. And contrary to most people's thinking, regardless of what another country was, oftentimes there was very, very good relations over our very short 250-year history with other countries in those countries. And people just assume they have very simplistic idea, oh, China is red China, therefore bad. And or some people say, oh, America behaves, imperialist now, so on something, so they're bad, or Russia was Soviet, so they're bad. That people just have these very simplistic ideas.
Yeah.
And it's more complex than
It's
that.
more complicated than that, but obviously in Taiwan we were under Chiang Kai-shek, and we always say General Marshall is the one kind of betray us, that it was the intention of U.S. to give China to the communists. That's what we were educated, at least.
Well, the thing is that Franklin Roosevelt died really at an unfortunate time because
yes, yeah, that was a little suspicious actually.
Well, many people think that was suspicious, but if he had lived longer, if Henry Wallace had been, many thought he would become the next president, if he had remained in 1944, Franklin Roosevelt's vice president, and then become president, then probably the last 50 years would be very different for the whole world. Unfortunately, it was Truman, who was a very small-minded guy. He sucked up to Winston Churchill.
Yep. It's been the UK all along. Yep.
The British Empire.
Yep.
And you see already, we just covered 250 years of our history. And of course, as you know, the Opium Wars were the British. And I know you had you posted the book on that, Johnny?
Yes, I think I did.
He posted.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons
the Dope Incorporated, yeah.
Yeah, I invited both of you to this episode.
Yeah, and again, it is more interesting. I mean, because we thought it was just the unfair treaty, right, between the Qing dynasty and the UK, and actually it was more than that. The Eastern India Company, right? They they do all the opium trading, and and they give China the drug, and China gave the West the silver, and actually allowed silver. And I still remember when we were reading, I believe in middle school, that we got to pay up like 4,500,000两 450 million ounces of silver to the British. Something.
1两是多少?
Yeah.
Even though I had read some about it, there was a very good Chinese film years ago about the Opium Wars.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's the same way of manipulation, because if you look at the United States, and how the fentanyl and other drug, and then the Rust Belt, how especially the white population, blue collar. I mean, they are the biggest victim group of this drug, epidemic. And you always find the same thing, it's the same, a few family, they are all behind it. And then they will buy out the pharmacy and the doctor, and West Virginia just right beside us. And it is it is sad, a lot of mining town, they were just gone.
Yes.
Yeah, people just got addicted and wasted. Yeah.
Well, the center of that was really Ohio.
Ohio.
In terms of the opioid addiction. There's a very good book that's now a little bit old, maybe early 2000s, called Dreamland. And it's about the opium epidemic in the United States. And as you correctly pointed out, it hit really the white, blue collar America, and then spread out from there.
Right.
And totally assisted by Big Pharma, who thankfully Bobby Kennedy is working on taking on. But then when the spotlight came on that, then the Mexican drug cartels, they began bringing in the black tar opium, and that was maybe $1 or $2 instead of $20 for a hit, and that just accelerated the destruction.
Right. Yeah.
And here's the thing. I was thinking about this thing with the fentanyl because, again, simplistically, and I don't really know. I'll just tell you right now. So this is my thought. They say, oh, it's China, but correct me if I'm wrong. The history of China is very inward.
Right.
In the long span of history, this idea of attacking foreigners is really not culturally.
Not in their DNA. No. Yep.
It's not in the DNA. That is very much a Western European imperial mindset. So when I heard that, I was like, okay, maybe there's some organized crime, but I'm sure that what we'll find is that it's something else designed, because it's the way that it's conveyed is to continue hostility in the minds of the population. It's like with Venezuela. Look, Venezuela does not, they're not a big heroin or fentanyl country. They're marijuana, they're cocaine.
Yep.
These drug boats have been, 10, 15 years we've been seizing drug boats. This is nothing that new with the drug boats, and the Coast Guard has been doing that. So the renewed attention is really around a domestic policy or some other policy, not really because Venezuela has suddenly decided to bring fentanyl into the United States. All of that, by and large, comes in via Mexico, over land.
Yeah, or they say Canada maybe is the biggest. Yeah, and another thing is that actually I read, the fentanyl, how to make fentanyl. You need a precursor, and again, along with many chemicals. U.S. we just don't manufacture those anymore. So there are only two sources. I forgot the name of the precursor: China or India. So, you either get it from India or you got it from China. And I think China probably a lot cheaper than India. And again, this our procurement experience as well. So if you say the precursor is from fentanyl, and which actually that chemical has other uses, it's not only for fentanyl, actually it has other uses. So you can always say, see, China gave us the precursor, so they must be behind the fentanyl. But I also read that, they would use like Chinese American as the front for their drug dealing.
Yeah.
But the Chinese American has nothing to do with China. And you know why I'm suspecting, I think it's a front put out, maybe by some intelligence 3-letter agency. That's my suspicion. And and even Venezuela, I mean, who is running Venezuela? If you listen to a lot of people, I mean, the drug, I mean, I don't think it's the Venezuela government, or even the government was established by, you know, a three-letter agency as well, right? Yeah, like Maduro.
Yes.
Chavez, yeah.
Well, you know, I mean, the role of the CIA in South America has been very long term, very
Yeah,
long term.
yeah.
When I was in Russia in May, we toured, captured NATO equipment and captured Ukrainian weaponry
Right.
at a military base there. And many of the drones
Mm-hmm.
were Chinese drones.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but that's because they're the number one
Yeah, they
manufacturer
make it.
of
Yeah,
drones.
yeah,
It doesn't really mean, so that's the thing, is that people kind of misunderstand the way these things are.
yeah.
But I do think, so last weekend I had a discussion with former CIA analyst and expert in money laundering, Larry C.
Terry Johnson.
Johnson.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Terry Johnson. Yeah, I
Yeah.
watch his podcast as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So he and I had a discussion about this, and I think that the book you were looking at, Dope Incorporated. So some of the authors of that book are friends of mine, and we talk regularly about these topics
Mhm.
because the international drug traffic is very much intertwined in banking. And Larry
Right.
Johnson,
Oh, yes. Yep.
his view is that it's definitely an important cash element to the banking. The time that that book was written, we were talking about it being maybe as much as $1 trillion in liquidity being brought into the system. I have a feeling it's much more than
More than
that.
that. Yep.
But what he discussed was that, yeah, there's this whole relationship. And, you know, you can see HSBC, which was way back in the 1840s to 1860s opium war. They were, I mean, that they were established in the opium wars
Right.
through Hong Kong and into China. I think it was called, you can correct me, it was Hong Shang
汇丰银行，
HSBC,
汇丰
Hong Kong, Shanghai
Banking
Bank.
Corporation.
Banking Corporation. Oh, yeah, we call it
That's right.
汇丰. Yeah, yeah.
That's
Hui-
right, exactly.
Yeah.
So now we call them HSBC because you don't want too many people remembering, maybe. But they're still around. So they're, you know, imagine that. But here's the thing. Regardless of political ideologies, what fascinates me in the current environment is that yet, you know, we're not taking that on yet. And I think that we are not, because if you were to shut it down, it would cause severe systemic problems to the global financial system, the IMF system, the World Bank system. And you do see the world, various countries, right? They're moving to maybe separate from that banking system or have an
Right,
alternative
right.
banking system. You see that too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, that is then in the news today. Chairman Xi is calling for RMB as the reserve currency. I mean, it was in the news this morning.
And
So
there's already
yeah.
there's the Shanghai Development Bank.
Hmm.
I think that's one. So there's different banking institutions that are international, that are somewhat semi-state related, I believe,
Hmm. Hmm.
for development. So when Wenji and I were talking about what we might discuss, so I mean we can go as you lead, but I look at what is happening in China, to a lesser degree with Russia, but really Asia,
Hmm.
is that the very thing that the British banking establishment hated that we were doing in the 1800s with rail development, with the Trans-Siberian Railroad, what we were doing to reach out to our neighboring countries, Canada, Mexico. Back then, we wanted to build railroads there too. And then also this idea that you've seen Kirill Dmitriev discuss with the Bering Strait rail tunnel.
Yeah.
This is not a new idea. This comes back from the 1840s. These are long-term ideas of nation to nation, sovereign nation cooperative projects for development specifically targeted at the British, the Dutch, the Spanish empires.
Right. Yeah. But one thing interesting is, you know, the Canadian premier and the UK or British premier, they just went
to China.
visited China. I mean, so for me is that I think they are seeing the trend of US and Russia collaborating one another. So by, you know, I don't know the word, sucking up to China or whatever, I think they want to infiltrate China. Again, they want to try to, you know, instigate some kind of a relationship between, you know, friction between China and Russia. They know China and Russia are quite tight, you know, and by doing so, right? I mean, now they see US and Russia may be coming closer to one another now, so they can drive a wedge in that. I do see that kind of playing out, and you know, and I don't know what she would do, but I know he's a pretty wise guy.
Yes.
Yeah, I think he knows their game, but he is playing alone. So that's my take.
I mean, I think that it's right to be open. And I think he is being open but cautious.
Right. Yeah.
Because yes, what Mark Carney said at Davos definitely ripped the Band-Aid off of the Anglo-American empire as they have seen it as a threat. But he was the governor of the Bank of England.
Right. He was also part of the WEF thing. Yeah.
I don't trust him.
No.
And I don't think anybody in their right mind would trust him. I know President Trump before Davos said, you know, if he wants to have a deal with China, great. It's in his nation's interest. Great. Go do it. I agree. But also, you know, I don't think that there's any capability that Canada is going to be able to somehow drive a wedge.
Right.
Canada or Europe. In fact, if Europe wants to survive, the irony is they should go and talk to China and Russia and Taiwan and even India. They should develop new relationships like that as opposed to simply doing what we want them to do, being a client state.
Right.
I know Stammer didn't get a very warm welcome from President Xi because, like he was accompanied by a very like a no-rank translator, you know, and then in the Forbidden City, you know, he was just treated as a normal visitor. Everybody was there. There's no like security clearance.
Oh, really?
He didn't get
Yeah.
a
Yeah, he was alone with a young translator.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't understand. I saw something about like a push or something, but I didn't.
Yeah, I can say. But when Trump had, you know, visited Forbidden City, it's just President Xi and the First Lady of China accompanied Trump couple, you know, he and Melania. And there was no other visitors, it's just them. So it was a totally different, like a national, you know, treatment. So this time it's totally different.
Yeah. But I'm trying to think. When was that meeting?
That was
First term, Trump's first term.
2017.
Yeah, because I think that there is a plan to have a new meeting.
I think in April, Trump's going to visit China again, right?
Mm-hmm,
In this
mm-hmm.
April. Yeah, let's see what.
Well, you know, I find that when Trump talks with Putin and also I'm familiar with the phone calls between President Xi and President Trump.
Mhm.
Trump really, I won't say that he is on his best behavior. I'll say he's more thoughtful. In
Mhm.
other words, there's like the Trump for the US news media, and then there's the Trump when you're dealing with countries that are substantial countries, peers.
I, I actually see, and I don't know, both Wenjie and I, we are Q fan. So I think
Mhm.
there is a lot of coordination behind or among China, Russia, and US. And
The
actually,
three
for
flags.
me, this is World War III all over again. It is the alliance against the Axis. Now the Axis is UK, and you can say that who pick up Nazi. I think UK and Vatican has a lot to do with it. And then if you look at this time, the illegal immigrant, I mean, you look at it, there's a lot of Vatican or Catholic involvement. And then you see the UK again through Ukraine. I mean, they are literally the Nazis. So actually, I see a repeat of what is going on. But obviously, three superpower, there got to be some type of geological balance among them. I mean, they cannot be just saying, okay, I give up this, I give up that. So I think on the surface, they are more like, strategic enemy, if you will. But I think underneath, there's a lot of discussion between them. I mean, for example, about Iran or Venezuela. I mean, when Trump went to, take Maduro out, because it surprised me that China and Russia didn't do anything. And so actually, from then on, Wenjie and I, we kind of coordinate. I mean, concluded actually it was a coordinated rescue of Maduro instead of invading, in order to get the 2020 election fraud, the Dominion thing.
Oh, right, right, right. The voting machines. Well,
Yeah,
here's the thing.
yeah,
So in November, you had the National Security Strategy Memorandum that
right.
is put out by the White House, where the official policy is that Russia is a strategic collaborator, not an enemy.
Enemy, right?
And then this month,
Right.
the Defense Department put out the 2026 National Defense Strategy.
Mhm.
And in that document, they don't identify China
Yeah,
as
no,
an enemy
yeah,
either.
they don't either. Yeah,
Um, but so I think there is, see, I think that there's a policy fight. I think that the entire Western system is in jeopardy, and so there's a fight over who the United States will work with.
mhm.
So, and let me just say that this affects American voters because they're very brainwashed about this question of a strategic friendship. You know, like you're talking about, it's like World War II, the strategic allies and the strategic enemies. But Americans don't really have that in their historical thinking at all. They don't think in those. They have
Yeah,
a
they don't think. Yeah,
very short term
yeah,
approach. Um, and I mean, there is something to what you're saying. Like I know Japan is working on rearmament, for example, and this recent film that came out in China, which speaks about the what was it, the Nanjing
And in
massacre.
massacre.
Mhm.
Really very important film. I haven't seen it yet, but I've read about it. The Japanese, of course, had nothing to say about it. But these kinds of things are still in people's minds. I mean, actually, you will know this much better than I will, Johnny, but the whole issue of Taiwan really goes back to the treaties dealing with Japan.
Right. Yep. It
So
is.
this whole debate over this is really a leftover thing from World War II. But I've been doing a little reading on some American history, and I was debating somebody on the question of William McKinley, and we saw this come up at the Davos summit with Ambassador Jameson Greer, who is the U.S. Trade Ambassador, who spoke, had a very interesting speech at Davos where he discussed the American system of economics. He talked about Alexander Hamilton and his report on national banking. He spoke about John Quincy Adams. He discussed something about Henry Carey and this whole idea of productive credit and infrastructure. So he talked about certain aspects up to Teddy Roosevelt. Then what he did is he lumped Teddy Roosevelt in with all of these previous important founding fathers. And then he got to the post-war period. He discussed Roosevelt in a very interesting way. And then he started gushing about John Maynard Keynes and his creative ideas. Now, this is very important because what he did is he clearly knew something about the most important parts of American economic policy, which I will say, in my thinking, China has adopted the best parts of this early American industrial tradition of credit, both public and private credit for development. And my only complaint is we should too. And that's what Jameson Greer, he missed in his speech. And this is where I think there is a fight over where the Trump administration will go and where, therefore, the United States will go, because he gave a fairly accurate account of one of the features of the Hamiltonian system, focusing on tariffs, but then he did not discuss the important role of infrastructure, of credit for development. Even here in this country, you know, if I used to live in Philadelphia, nobody is aware that we had a national bank that was under the Congress and answered to the Congress. Whereas what we have is a Federal Reserve, which, as you know, or you might know, is a private institution. Right. And actually, the president appoints the head, the Senate approves, but the policy of the Federal Reserve is completely up to them. And my problem is that means answerable to the London and Wall Street financial establishment. Right. That's my problem with it. Whereas a national bank is required to answer to the U.S. Constitution. Yeah. So Greer missed that. And then when Franklin Roosevelt was working on building the Bretton Woods Agreement, actually it was his representative, Harry Dexter White, who had to maneuver around British Lord John Maynard Keynes to create a system that would be stable. And unfortunately, when Roosevelt died, you know, things went very bad. So the problem is that people think in our policymaking circles too much about money and capital flow. And this is why I wanted to talk about shipping, for example, because shipping is something, Johnny, that you mentioned with fentanyl. It's the precursors. It's the ability to not just deploy ships, but what is required for the steel, the power generation. Right. There's many inputs that go into shipping. Right. And this is what we here in the United States today and all of Europe, this is what is missed.
Yeah.
When you say shipping, did you mean freight or the ship making?
Yeah.
Well, actually, both.
Both. Yeah. Taiwan actually, before China, you know, was number one. Taiwan actually was number 3 or number 4 in ship making. For a small island like that, we actually make a lot of boat. I mean, you know, Evergreen, right? You know, the big,
Oh, the big one.
yeah, the big thing. Yeah.
Oh, that's made from.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they were built in Taiwan. I mean, we built a lot of, you know, this kind of oil tanker or something. But now it's all China. I mean, the China, the shipbuilding capacity probably is 100 times than US. I mean, at least.
So, yeah, I think so. Yeah, China's number one for 15 years in a row. South Korea is now the second largest.
I believe it.
Japan is now plummeted by 50%.
Right.
China builds 200 merchant ships per year for every one that the United States builds.
Right. Yeah.
So our capacity is just 0.1% capability. And then South Korea, I want to say there is a Hanwha, which is a South Korean based company,
I know.
has just,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I said it properly.
I know that company. Yeah, Hanwha.
Hanwha, okay.
Yeah.
So they've just purchased the Port of Philadelphia shipyard, and they intend to pour $5 billion into rebuilding this. So President Trump says, well, we want to build 20 ships a year. Okay, well, that is actually nothing. But it's going to take us 20 years before we can build, some small single digit number of ships per year. So here's my thinking strategically. You can look at these kinds of things and say, well, it would be better. Oh yeah. This is an important fact. In 2024 alone, one Chinese shipbuilder constructed more commercial vessels by tonnage than the entire U.S. shipbuilding industry has built since the end of World War II. I mean, this is mind blowing.
Yeah, insane. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm happy for China. I'm happy for South Korea, but I think now is the time where we simply say we're going to rebuild everything here so that we can not. I don't think there's any point in trying to compete. It's simply participate.
Right. I mean, I think I think we just beat Japan, right? Because the ship actually coming from the steel production first, so we got to get the steel back, and then I think who said that we need 200,000 welder or something just in the next some year.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I'm still in the defense industry, so we are supposed to build a Virginia class submarine. After 4 years, nothing has been done.
Exactly.
We spent like what, $1 billion on that, and nothing been done. I mean, so I think the corruption actually has been, I mean, from my observation, I came to the United States in 1987, under the end of Reagan's time. And I can tell you you look at US is the top, on everything. Infrastructure, people, everything. I remember I don't need to lock the door. And people say you don't need to lock your car. I mean, that's fine. But I see a lot of changes. I mean, honestly, about, I would say, starting 2008, something like that. In the last 20 years, there's a lot of changes. Yeah.
In the 1980s, you had Welch. I want to say Welch, who was the CEO of General Electric. And
I remember that.
Yeah, he really, what he did is he brought in this idea that companies should focus on their financials and not reinvest into plant and equipment or ongoing education of the workforce. Look for, mark productivity based on quarterly profits. And if an employee is not contributing to that, then the bottom 10%, you just automatically fire them.
Every year, you got to fire 10% every year.
So now this was, look, the problem is that this turned GE predominantly into a credit card company, and their productive base fell apart. Then his acolytes went and worked for Boeing. I mean, we've seen problems at Boeing
Mhm.
for some years, design problems. They're still reeling from the problem of what is it, the 737-900, the Max.
The Senior Max, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. These were, so engineering became number two, profit became number one.
Yeah.
And this is what, again, going back to the American system and what Greer said at the at Davos, and this is the problem I have with the new Federal Reserve, or the new Federal Reserve chairman.
Mhm.
This is going to be the problem that I have with Navarro, is that these guys are predominantly monetarists. They only think in monetary terms. This is the problem with the Wharton School of Business, Harvard Business School. All of these guys are simply thinking from the standpoint of financial wizardry. And you know, we've heard about nuclear power lately, but only in relation to AI, building power plants to support bigger and bigger and more advanced data centers. Now, that's the work I work in. I work in data centers. I work in cloud computing. I have to support artificial intelligence. I support next generation quantum computing, security measures. I just, for a major credit rating company for the United States, I just mapped out a plan for the next 5 years to secure the next generation, if you will, of financial transactions to defend against quantum computing hacks. And to say that we're going to build nuclear power because of this is a mistake. Because, yes, that's going to make Bill Gates more money. Yes, it will. But in fact, it's going to make so much less than if we said, okay, we're going to build, like John F. Kennedy wanted, 1,000 nuclear power plants for every possible thing that you can think of under the sun. Water desalination to green the aquifers, high-speed rail. I know people say that they're not for high-speed rail, but you can't really have high-speed rail unless you have lots of power.
Power, yep. Mhm.
And so you can't say rail before power. It doesn't work that way. You know, all of the other kinds of things that you can possibly imagine before you even get to computational power, but just physical infrastructure. You know, you said how many did you say? 200,000 welders?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is not a small number.
No, it's not. Yeah.
You know, I like what SpaceX is doing, but in fact, right down the street from me, 15 minutes, is Firefly. And Firefly is the only private company to land a lander on the moon successfully and then launch it again. But in fact, since we're a different system than China, we should have so much power available that there are many space companies,
Right.
and that we're in fact saying, hey, not let's put weapons in space, but maybe we could, have some kind of colonization program. And remember, the international language of space is Russian.
Yeah.
So right there, it means space is an area for cooperation. But if we don't have the power generation capacity, so it's interesting because today, Elon Musk was commenting on China. He said China's electricity generation is still growing super fast, with solar being the largest incremental contributor and will exceed America by a factor of 3 times either this or next year. Now, he said that, commenting on the fact that as of now,
Mhm.
the US generates 14% of all global electricity, China 33%, and the rest of the world about 52 to 53%. Here's what he missed. He missed the, to me, most important point, which is that as of this year, 2026, already China has almost 30 nuclear reactors under construction.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And they're gonna, and this will mean 6 to 8 new reactors annually, with plans to add 150 more between 2020 and
Right.
2035.
Yeah.
And we have
150.
zero.
Yeah, 150 is what I read. Yep.
So to me, this is the wake-up call.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. You know, the nuclear reactor and whatnot, the most important thing is welding. You know, those welders got to be certified, because I know people actually work on the nuclear reactor for the submarine. I mean, it's very specialized technique. Yeah.
It's no different than space technology in that
Yeah,
regard.
well,
It's
in
the
that regard, yeah.
most advanced, right?
Yeah, mostly advanced, yeah. Yeah, I got to be certified, and only certain people can do that. But if you want to build a submarine, nuclear reactor, and all these things, I mean, we need a lot of trade people that specialize in this.
And tell me, let me ask you, if you can say, how long will it take to build the submarine on the project you're working on?
Oh, I'm not on the submarine. I mean, I'm not building on a submarine, but the submarine at least take 4 to 5 years.
Yeah.
At least 4 to 5 years.
So,
I mean, the same as like a nuclear plant. You know, from design to construction to finish, I mean, you do get 5 to 6 years.
right. So to me, the competing, so this is where we in the United States should be focusing. We should be saying these kinds of things. Here's the other thing. Let's talk about immigration. Let me ask the both of you. I know this is,
Actually,
well,
when you speak, I mean, she has been very quiet.
I was just going to say, this is
feel
your
bad.
show,
You
Wenji.
guys.
Wenji, this is your show.
I always do this, like I listen to.
But I want, but anyway, I would like to know, in your both thinking, has anybody come up with a solution to immigration? Because I have a solution, but have you heard?
About immigration, I I just think Trump's idea is good for now. Like we are having too many undocumented or so-called illegal immigrants. I think America is I like the multicultural the how do you say that? I like it to be inclusive, but it's not like everyone. You can just cross the border. You know, the South American, they just empty their prison, their jails, all those. That's why we're so unsafe right now. And where we live used to be a very safe place, but now we dare not to leave our bags, our handbags in our car. So it really changed our lifestyle. So we think, both we welcome the legal immigrants and also we enforce law and order. I think that's the only way. I cannot think of other ways.
I graduated in '94, and at that time, aerospace is in the dip. So, I mean, I would say what 70% of the people from Taiwan I know, they actually went back because they couldn't find a job, you know. And I was lucky enough because my wife was, I think she was a, permanent resident. So through her that I got to stay. But at least from late 80 to early 90, I never thought illegal immigrants were issues at that time. I mean, I know people who were illegal, people, for example, the cleaning lady or something, but they do no harm. I mean, they actually contribute to the society. Yeah. But again, I think it was to a point. I mean, I think the immigration, the topic is almost like the Democrat want them to vote, so they import them to vote in such, and they need a lot of people, right? they need a lot of people, as a lot of Hispanic, they are actually turning Republican too, right? So the legal Hispanic population, they are voting conservative. So what do? I mean, they need to import other people. So I think that's become an issue. So I think if you go back to the merit-based immigration under Reagan's time, I think that is, for me at least, that was an ideal situation. Yeah.
So, I mean, in large part, for simplicity's sake, I mean, I'll agree with you. There is one other aspect which nobody ever thinks about, which is that it's in our interest to see our neighbors, let's just say Mexico, all the way through South America and Canada, be more industrialized themselves. And this is not the same as what we've seen for decades and decades, where maybe, well, you know, take garage door companies and, you know, automobile manufacturing parts who just move to those countries, use the cheaper labor and import the product over here. It's not the same thing. I'm talking about their own national industries. And I think, again, there is a cooperate, and this is something I don't think the Trump administration gets. Again, and that's not because Trump doesn't get it. I think he's actually open. I think it's because people like Peter Navarro and these other financial advisors, they don't want it because they are stuck in this British, London, Wall Street money concept. But if we, for example, were to go to, say, Mexico and say, okay, we will help you industrialize in exchange for your heavy oil that we will, you know, work on producing, and same thing with Venezuela. We'll help you to industrialize because we don't want all of the illegal immigrants who are desperate.
Right.
We want them to stay there and be happy. We want you to be a stable country because that makes us a stable country.
Agree.
Then the immigration thing becomes a very different thing.
Yeah. I agree with you. I mean, the reason is the immigration, I think in the 70s, there was a lot of Japanese came to the United States. In the 80s was Taiwan and Iran. In the 90s become Chinese and Indian dominant. But if you look back how the Japanese industry or even the Taiwanese industry took off, has not to do with they get educated in US, they went back to Japan and Taiwan respectively, and then they start to build their infrastructure. So the US actually helped a lot in the Japanese industry, and Taiwan, like a TSMC. I mean, we knew actually, I mean, the guy, Morris Chen, he actually was like a CTO, Chief Technology Officer for Texas Instruments. So literally, it was a transfer of the technology to Taiwan, but Taiwan made it better. You know, and now Taiwan is leading in the chip manufacturing. So I look at this, I said that US is best in innovation. They educate people actually almost freely, right? I mean, I receive like a scholarship before I came here. I now receive the aerospace education free, you know, and you know, but a lot of things build up. So I can see a lot of interest that US build up, but again, different countries are different. Japan and Taiwan, they are pretty loyal to US so far, at least. But as I also know that there are countries that will step US in the back, you know, from government perspective point of view. So I count, you know, I would in agreement with you, because if we build it up and if they really appreciate what we have done for them, and I think it will be a win-win situation. We expand our industrial base, they become a richer nation, so they don't need to send a criminal here.
And also what you're going to have is they will, when people's standard of living rises, then they're going to consume more.
Yes, yeah. And
so it's actually a bigger wealth return than if you
Yeah,
just say we're only going to build nuclear power plants
right.
for data centers for AI. And I mean, I have to use AI, and I'm not impressed. I'm still smarter than artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
I have a question, like even United States needs to industrialize ourselves, right? We have a lot
Heavy.
to catch up. How do we, like under such circumstance, how do we help Mexico and Canada to industrialize? I feel like it's too much a burden.
I mean, I think that's a phenomenal question. I think that the way that you do it is sort of like what John F. Kennedy did with the Apollo space program, where you simply say, we're going to build, in the case of, say, Mexico and South America, going back to Abraham Lincoln's time, the idea was that we were going to build a transcontinental railroad, and then his collaborators were trying to build railroads that would then connect that into Mexico, all the way through South America, all the way around the South American continent, so that you could have goods produced in New York that would then get all the way to Chile or Argentina, and vice versa, things that they would. So I think the only way to do it, and this is the part that is missing, is if Trump said, for example, think about all the years from 2008 when we put, I don't remember how many trillions of dollars into bailing out Wall Street banks. How about instead you say, okay, we're going to take $5 trillion, an ungodly amount of money, and we're going to invest it in an emergency industrialization project for the United States and with our neighbors around construction projects. Here's an example of something that you can bring into that. One of the most popular programs under Franklin Roosevelt was called the Civilian Conservation Corps. So you take all these young Americans out there, black, white, Hispanic, whatever, and you say, you sign up here, you're going to get a good job, and we're going to train you to become those skilled welders that Johnny's talking about. And, like a military mobilization, you're going to treat it as if you are mobilizing for war, but you're mobilizing it to build a huge rail interchange program. I mean, in 2007, China did not have high-speed trains. 2007, they didn't. 2008, when we financed the bailout of Bear Stearns and these other banks, they started investing in high-speed rail, and now they have a 14, 15 trillion dollar high-speed rail industry out of nothing. So that's what we would do, and you can have private banks. All these Wall Street banks, their asset to debt ratio puts, like Bank of America, bankrupt 100 times over. You can say, okay, you want to not be shut down for racketeering, money laundering, and fraud, then what you have to do is you have to create credit only for this kind of a project. And we have to see 50 million Americans employed in these projects. And then we go to Mexico and we say, Mexico, we're going to need you to participate, and you're going to want to participate in this too. So we'll train your people in exchange for resources, and we will jointly do this. I guarantee you there are projects on the books. There are engineers, designers who've designed this stuff for the last 50 years.
Yep. Yeah. Ryan, your idea, fortunately or unfortunately, China is using it.
I know.
Yeah, they are doing it now. I mean, they literally finance the project. They build high-speed rail, and then in exchange, I mean, I know it's a lot of people criticize Xi for that, but he's pretty smart. He said that this is the interest-free loan. We'll build it for you. You will pay it back in 20, 30 years, but we will have the first priority to use your port or whatever. I mean, it is a very strategic, smart move. Yeah. However, he creates jobs for both the Chinese and the hosting nations. That's what he did.
And you know what? All we would do, and that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He understands what the United States used to do.
Yeah.
That's what
Yes,
we used to
exactly.
do.
Yeah, he look at, I mean, a lot of idea is what we had before.
Yeah.
And then they eventually, I mean, you ask Chinese about this called what? Thorium, right? Nuclear reactor or
Thorium,
something.
yeah.
Thorium. They say, well, how you started? He said, we didn't start it. We just look at the Oak Ridge report and we start to
Exactly.
copy it. I
Yeah.
mean, they're smartest people. They are looking at what we have in the 50 and the 60,
Yeah.
and they were implementing those ideas. And I can
That
I can give you an inside job about this high speed rail
mm,
because the we call it the high temperature superconductor.
hmm
Actually, it was invented by a Taiwanese American called Po Chu,
mm,
yttrium barium copper oxide. So you will become superconductive, and then you can levitate the train at 90 Fahrenheit. So you can cool it with liquid nitrogen. The Japanese active control is totally different. The passive is very stable. And Po Chu he tried to persuade the Texas government saying that I have this idea. If you can build the rail or something, this is going to revolutionize, or you can apply it to a medical equipment. And the Texas government or whatever they say is that, well, we are for the truckers, we don't see how this competes against the trucker or something. So Po Chu eventually
yeah.
went to Hong Kong,
Yeah.
and then the Chinese adopt his technology for the high-speed rail. So it is, and I was there, I knew Po Chu 1996 to 98. And I say this technology will be good for high-speed rail.
Mm-hmm.
And he knows too. And then 2008, China started it, just like you say. Now they're exporting this high-speed rail around the world. Yeah.
So here is where the United States gets in trouble, is that what we've been talking about is what was the actual American system that we were
Yep.
founded on, that the British Empire hated that we were exporting to other countries to create productive republics.
Mm-hmm.
What happened when McKinley was assassinated uh, and Teddy Roosevelt came in is that his chief advisors were people like John Hay, and then I think it was the grandson of John Quincy Adams was really not a good guy. His name was Brooks Adams. Uh, their they were rabid Anglophiles. Their view was that the Anglo-American hegemony in Asia had to be guaranteed. Um, and their view was simply control resources. So there's actually a book called, um, let me see.
Yamamoto is a book, The Silver Toe to the.
No, this is a book written by Brooks Adams. Well, there was two books. One was called American Economic Supremacy,
Okay.
and the other book was called The New Empire. These were written in 1901, 1902. Um, and in these books, they basically said it's time for a resurgence of the British Empire, but the British are too weak. We will have to do it. And it will become a world empire. You know,
Yeah.
Great Britain has been the fortified outpost of the Anglo-Saxon race,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
but
Yep.
they saw a threat of German-Russian cooperation,
Right. Yep.
and I mean, literally, these are the words that they said that America has to guarantee the
Yep.
hegemony. This is
Yep.
what they said.
Yep. No,
So
I
their
read similar
view,
book. Yep. Mm-hmm.
yeah, their view was not to have a good neighbor cooperation, but to sabotage other nations the way the British Empire had done.
Yeah.
So the problem is that this is still uh, uh, the American policy. For a short period of time under Franklin Roosevelt, it was beaten back, as I mentioned, Harry Dexter White. But then you had the Dulles brothers. Larry Johnson
Yep.
has talked about the Dulles brothers a
Dallas
number
brother,
of
the
times.
CIA, yeah, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
OSS, yep, yep.
so this was the Wall Street money guys. So the Wall Street guys, they think about the money and controlling resources. The sovereign nation state Republicans, they think about development and uplifting more people, creating consumers by having people be able to afford the products that they build, and then collaborating with other countries. So, I mean, my view is similar. I think that Trump wants to do that. I think that he's having a very difficult time doing it. I spoke with a law enforcement, number of law enforcement experts. Probably the whole immigration thing could be dealt with better, where you have local police involved to deal with crowd control so that you don't have so much violent interchanges. I mean, there is some amount of are you familiar with MK Ultra?
Yeah, of course.
Yes, we talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that I can't guarantee this, but I was thinking about this thing with Minnesota being sort of an MK Ultra test zone because
Yeah.
of things like Black Lives Matter,
Yep.
things like George Floyd, where it's used as a control thing for the elections.
My country.
Yeah, yeah, agree.
Ryan,
So
I have a question for you regarding the British Empire. The British Empire and the, UK, the country, are they the same or are they different?
yeah, they're different. I mean, really, the British Empire was uh, the tradition before the British was the Venetian fondi. The fondi were the family funds that each household was a different banking family, and their immortality was not in any sense a religious idea. It was simply that the financial fund would continue after you died. You weren't important. Your human creative contribution was not important. It was the fund wealth itself, the money. And so this Venetian idea of controlling the trade, controlling the insurance, sometimes using wars. This is very frequent with the Venetians, funding both sides in a war, financing those wars, and then they would simply make all the money off of that.
Yep.
That was then transferred literally to Great Britain as the Venetian party. And then you had Lord Palmerston, who was under Queen Victoria, who was the preeminent person behind that doctrine. So the British East India Company and the various other financial houses and corporations in Great Britain, that's all they were. That was the empire. The monarchy was simply the ability to bring in the military and the intelligence. But really, I mean, a lot of these companies had their own militaries too.
Right. Yep.
That was the empire. It was the system that was the empire, not the UK. Actually, in fact, it's important to note that the industrialization of the UK was started by Benjamin Franklin. He went over there, he conspired, he had a what he called a junta of collaborators in England, and their conspiracy against these financial families was to industrialize England.
Mm.
And then he was chased out.
No. Interesting.
And yeah.
Yeah. So American really has been a thorn to the side for the British Empire.
Except that right now we so much are like the continuation. That's the problem. But yes, you're right. Our relationship, that's the good thing about the relationship with Russia. But if you go back to 1890s, Count Sergei Witte was the interior minister of Russia. He was building the Trans-Siberian Railroad. All the train components, all of the lead engineers came from Philadelphia.
Mhm.
And we trained Russian engineers, and we were building all the Russian trains the same gauge as the American gauge. And guess what? We built them all the way into China. We built trains into China in the 1890s.
Mhm. Interesting. So,
I always think like if United States, China, and Russia, if these three countries cooperate together, we can build up great things. But maybe it is the British Empire. They will lose control if these three countries work together.
yeah, I
They can, I think they always think of controlling and profit. That's what they think, what's in their mind.
so Ron, have you read a book called The Vatican Assassins?
I have not. I have
Yeah,
not.
I mean, it's interesting. Again, it is just one theory is that the Jesuit, right? And the oath of the Jesuit.
I was Jesuit trained.
Okay, so I got to be
Oh,
careful.
really? Interesting.
So I got to be very careful.
Well,
Yeah.
I went to Jesuit schools.
Yes,
So
I mean Jesuit school, a lot of, here, right, what, George Washington, Xavier University.
yes, yes. I went to so Brophy College Prep in Phoenix, Arizona.
Right.
The was the boys' school, and right next to us, the girls' school was Xavier,
Mhm,
and these were college prep schools.
mhm.
But go ahead anyway.
No, so but I need to separate from the Jesuit to the Illuminati. Obviously, there's a code within the Jesuit, there are Illuminatis. And just like, within the Judaism, there is a small sect of the mysteryism of the Judaism. I mean, so you cannot say all Jews are like that, but there are a selected group of people, they are in bed with the British Empire or something. And again, the Vatican assassin is that the thinking is, why they always treat US and Russia as the enemy, because the U.S. was funded by the Protestant, and the Russia has been, right. I mean the East Orthodox, Eastern Orthodox, but the Jesuit, they are loyal to the Pope, so they need to control the U.S. and the Russia. So there was one perspective, in that regard, saying that that's why the Vatican either use UK or collaborate with the UK, always push against Russia and US. That's why the US and Russia cannot be friends, because if they are friends, but again, I mean, Russia actually intervened, right? 1812, when US were fighting, they were, they were stopping the French or the
Yeah.
Spaniard from coming. Yeah.
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 So, I don't know. So the Catholic Church is mixed, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, just, yeah, very diverse. Yeah.
Because you had the Jesuits in China,
Yes. Yeah.
and it was a
No, they were doing good thing
very
for
good
China
thing.
and Japan. Yeah.
Yes.
And India.
Yeah. And one person that's important to look at is Italian priest Matteo Ricci,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
who had
Lima
in
Do. Lima Do.
is that his name?
Unjie, Lima Do. Matteo Ricci.
Oh, Lima, though. Oh, we're talking about the,
That's his name in Chinese.
yeah,
Yeah. Lima Do. Yeah.
he is very famous. Like our history book will,
Yeah. Yeah. And he
yeah.
create the whatever the Tianwenyi. They actually the globe and the astronomy. He did a lot of the technical thing for China. Yeah.
So this is a for me this is a way to talk to people in the United States
Mhm.
because this is the best of the Christian tradition in China.
Right.
It wasn't about a religious conquest.
Right.
You mentioned the Protestant. I have something to say about that when it comes to the Middle East in a second.
Of course, yeah.
Wenji and I have talked about this a little bit in the past, but I think this example of Matteo Ricci
Mhm,
is the best example because of the philosophies in China
mhm.
and his understanding. Again, this is a time when the church really represented a more metaphysical idea and
Right.
an uplifting of the human soul and the human mind. Metaphysical in a non-cultic way, but
Right.
actually a way that
Yeah.
respects human dignity and development.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with you because, like, Christian and not all Christian are Christian Zionists, right? I mean, because the
Yeah.
Zionist is a very small portion for 2,000 years. I mean, the Zionist movement didn't come until 1850 or even later than that. So that's
You
what I'm
pres-
saying. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's different than, say, for example, you had the Dominicans and the Franciscans.
Right.
When they came to China, they represented a very hostile
Mm-hmm.
view
Mm-hmm.
and a conflict. The whole Christian Zionism thing, and unfortunately, this is the problem with most of Protestant Christianity in the United States. This is an offshoot of the Church of England, the what they call the Low Church.
Yeah.
And largely this was created because of the British discovery of oil and the need to shape Christianity to support the British imperial operations in the Middle East.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the thing. We have the potential to restore Christianity even.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it was because I have some brethren background. Actually, I used to read the Bible translation from J.N. Darby, actually. So, the brethren movement and the Scofield and everything.
Darby,
Yeah,
that's the guy.
yeah,
He's
J.N.
the
Darby.
guy that was John Nelson Darby was the
Yeah,
guy that was the centerpiece of corrupting Christianity
I-
on behalf of the British
yeah.
Empire.
He want to. I mean, literally, he just say that the God's covenant in Israel need to be fulfilled. So a nation in the. I mean, that's what he was directing toward that. And obviously, the brethren give to the Baptists. So the Baptists actually thinking alike, like the brethren or the Jane Darby. But if you look at like a Presbyterian or Episcopal or even the Catholic, I mean, for them there is no. I mean, the Israel, the new Israel is the church, is the church. Yeah.
Right. It's not the physical state
No,
of
it's not a physical
Israel.
state. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So that's why I say, I listen to a lot of people, especially like NT Wright. You probably know NT Wright. Anyway,
Maybe so.
yeah, he was talking about what is the spiritual Israel and the physical Israel. Yeah,
Hmm, hmm.
yeah. So, but that is too big a theological
No,
issue.
no, but I don't think we even have to talk about it in a
Yeah,
theological way. I think that the issue is that the empire is out. This is the
yeah,
philosophy, this is the religion that is owned by the empire,
yeah,
and creating those schisms, the breaks in the church.
yeah. Well, even the Wahhabism, right?
Hmm.
In Islam or even the 13th Imam or something. I mean, if you look at some extremely form of every religion, even Buddhists have extreme religion, even the Hindu got extreme.
Yeah.
I always doubt who instigate those, who put the sea of division in those religions. I always doubt. I think there was some conspiracy of doing this in all religions.
Yeah, and I mean, here we're conspiring to return sanity. So I think that's the one thing that is missed. So, you have all of these people out there demonstrating for Gaza against Israel. One thing I say, and I understand, I understand that situation, but these people weren't out there demonstrating on behalf of all of the African nations that have been destroyed.
Mhm.
or South Americans or Americans. So I think that what we have to do is have a grand conspiracy to get at least Americans, since we're here in the United States, get Americans to think about this historical battle.
Mhm.
I think the world is a much more dangerous place because the current system is crumbling. But I think that while Trump would like to somehow get into a new system,
Mhm.
he doesn't really have, that deep state is not out of the
Right.
government.
Yeah.
It's not an easy thing to clean the deep state out. It's like going to the dentist where he's got to really, draw a little blood going around your gums to clean up. There's a lot of cleanup, and the American voters think about this thing way too simplistically. I'll give you one example. In my view, I don't know what you think, but I think a lot of the Epstein files that have been released now is largely a distraction. Not because Epstein wasn't a bad person. I'm not saying that. I think everything he did has been, I think we don't know the full extent. I think his job was definitely involved in the banking world and control as far as that goes. Whether he was involved with Israeli intelligence, I don't know. I know his father was. Here's what I can say. The stuff that was just released, most of this, to my knowledge, is rumors, hearsays, and things that the FBI has had for 5 years. They've tried to investigate. The only thing that they got was Prince Andrew, which is fine. They should get everybody that they need to get. But I think that President Trump maybe made a mistake in beating the drum so much for the Epstein files that finally they released them, and now it's just it's like soap opera. It's a distraction from this discussion that we're having. What we need is an advocacy for a positive solution. And I have not said in our conversation Belt and Road yet. What we simply need to do is get the Trump administration and the American voters, I don't care what party, to adopt an American version of the Belt and Road. Call it
Yeah.
the revival of Lincoln's Transcontinental Railroad. Give it a fancy name. I don't really care. But if that's what they will, be for, then that's what we need to get them to do.
I think the idea was originally from here, right? Then
Totally.
we just we just now we just need to go back to be ourselves.
Totally. I started talking about this in 1997 officially, where I would go to Congress, the State Department, and state legislatures, one state after another. I would meet with every single state elected official. So this was months and months and months from 1997 about how the U.S., Russia, China, and India as the core, and then another grouping of nations, Germany with their industrial base, Indonesia, Mexico, and so a second tier of countries that would be the basis for a new system where we would put the existing system through some form of a bankruptcy reorganization. Nations would then cooperate and invest in this new system that would bring in private businesses, private industry, uplift and train the population as an engine for the next, 250 years. Since 1997, and we had maps that look very familiar with the Belt and Road maps that you see today.
Almost 30 years. That's remarkable.
I can tell you for a fact, I did it for almost 26 years. I talked with U.S. government officials about that.
Impressive.
You were very young at that time.
I was very young. I remember Wenji, in 1991, I was 17, and I was there in the Soviet Union right as it was falling apart.
Oh, you were in Soviet Union.
Yeah, I was part of
Ryan speaks Russian.
a little bit of Russian. I do speak, and so I was over there as an American student,
Uh-huh.
I wanted to see what the big deal was about the Soviet Union.
Uh-huh.
The evil empire, as Ronald Reagan had said, right? I wanted to see it from my own eyes. And I found, as I've said to Wenji before, I've found a place that was remarkably very similar in terms of the people to me. No, not really very
Very different.
different.
Yeah.
And then in 1996, I started to, my mother introduced me to some political layers. Actually, one of the authors of the Dope Incorporated book, there's a very good book, Johnny, called Treason in America.
It's in America. Okay.
It's a very big book, but it really goes all the way through Averell Harriman, but it starts at the beginning. And in fact, the author of one of those authors is a man I just had a conversation with, Anton Chaikin, and he wrote this book. Can you see that title properly?
Yeah. Who
Who
we
we
are.
are.
Yeah.
This is volume 2, and this goes from the 1830s to the 1890s, the very time period that we're talking about, how we became this nation. And Anton Chaikin is his name. He's working on volume 3, which is from 1890s through probably John F. Kennedy, to identify this American system for people so that we can return our thinking to this tradition.
That's good.
So I recommend that book very much. Treason in America, Dope Incorporated were some of the first books in politics that I'd ever read. And if you look up, there's another one called Why the British Kill American Presidents. It's an old pamphlet from maybe 1995, but you can probably find an article about it on the internet.
Yeah.
Every American president, yes. Aaron Burr this book was one of the most important books in my entire political thinking. And I read it when I was, about 20 years old. So because there's no point in reading about the bad if you can't also understand what was good.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
That's my argument with people who are critical of Trump. I'm critical of Donald Trump. I think he makes tons of mistakes, but I want him to be successful in the way that we're talking about right now. This is what he should do.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. I think we had a very good talk today, both wide and deep, and we found some solutions for the United States, right? And the world.
Yeah.
Why not? Mexico too. My family's all from Mexico, so they would be happy about this.
Yeah. I'm just floored by how much Ryan read and know about. It's very impressive.
Well, you too. I mean, I know, like.
No. You know a lot more. I mean, so I should read a little more about American history. I mean, obviously, my starting point is always more of a conspiracy, right? A rabbit hole. But I need to be trained. At least I need to know the orthodox knowledge first before you don't let the conspiracy become your mentor. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. There is a loop, because there's a loop that people who only look at conspiracy get into.
Right.
They don't see the potential for good, and we can't forget. Even the most evil person is a human being and is capable, has a capacity for good if they choose.
Yes. Yeah.
So I don't put it past. Look, President Putin is one of the smartest men I know, aside from President Xi.
Smart. Yeah.
These guys have, a good sign of intelligence to me is humor.
Yeah.
And these guys have such deep humor. And that's why I said, whenever President Trump talks with them, it's like it's like a different person. And so we also have to we reflect on the bad things we did, but we also have to find what was it that was good and emphasize that that's what we need to return to.
Mhm.
It's easy to say what was bad.
Right. Yep.
Mhm. Yeah, as you said, like given the opportunity or option, right? So we need to provide a good option.
Yes.
Mhm.
And that to me is more important than simply pointing out what is bad.
Yes.
So anyway,
Okay.
Anyway,
Yeah. Yeah. Our audiences say this is a very valuable episode. Worth go visit again, worth watch again.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
can I ask you, Johnny, where do you live?
I live in Virginia, Southwest Virginia.
Southwest Virginia.
Virginia.
Oh yeah. I've been to that part of Virginia. I used to for a short time live and worked out of Leesburg, Virginia.
Oh, Leesburg is in the north, though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
we are in the Roanoke area.
Oh, I know where you are. Yes. Yeah, yeah. Well, maybe we can find some way to all meet at some point in the future and conspire some more.
Of course. At least we can talk like this, right?
Winja is too far away. She's in Texas. So.
She's close.
She's close to you?
Yeah,
Right.
you're
Yeah.
what, 2.5 hours away,
2.5
maybe.
Really?
hours
So
away.
yeah, so you are both speak Texan.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I was in Houston for 2 years, so I can call myself a Texan too.
There you go. There
For
you go.
2
Well,
years.
I'm in Austin,
Okay.
just outside of Austin.
Yeah.
I lived in Virginia for like 3 months. I stayed there for 3 months. Richmond,
Mm-hmm.
the beautiful city.
I lived in Philadelphia for 16 years.
I don't like Philadelphia.
It's not what it's supposed to be.
It's like a very old and demolished city. I don't know. It's
That's the price that it paid for being such a good city in the 1800s.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I think we can rebuild all of these places.
Of
Yeah.
course. Yeah.
We should. Like even New York, right?
And we will actually. I believe we will. American always, choose to do the right thing.
We can take like in the Middle East, you can remove the sand from the desert with technology and remove the hate from the hearts with
Right.
this philosophy.
Amen. Yeah.
So, well, it's good talking to the two of you.
Yeah. Good
Yeah,
talking to you, Ryan.
you too, right?
Appreciate the time.
Mhm. We
It was
should
fun.
talk more.
Absolutely.
We'll definitely find time.
Absolutely. Yeah, we didn't even talk about the collapse of cryptocurrency that's been going on, but we can do that another time.
Yeah, and silver,
Gold, right? Oof.
Silver
Yep.
and gold. Okay.
All right. Have a good
Okay.
night.
Thank
Mhm.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Bye.
Ryan.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Take care.